Welcome to episode 59 with me, Dan J. Gregory.
My name is Dan J. Gregory, and I am committed to hunting down the secrets of business mastery and human performance. My goal for the Unstoppable podcast is to share insights from some of the most successful entrepreneurs, inspiring thought leaders, world-class athletes, and prominent celebrities to help you to become unstoppable in business and life. Each week I'll be bringing you a new interview with an inspiring person and sharing my own results as I pursue the answers to the question, how can I create the ultimate edge in my business, make a significant impact, and live an extraordinary life?
Hello and welcome to episode 59 of the Unstoppable podcast. It's Monday on a Tuesday here, having had a 3-day weekend. In fact, I had a 4-day weekend, which I'll tell you about in a moment. But in the UK, we have a bank holiday on the last weekend of August. So this is why I'm recording this on Tuesday. So it's Monday on a Tuesday. Everyone's back to work in the UK today. So I did take the liberty of having an extra day's holiday myself. And for those of you who on my email list, you'll know that there was no podcast on Thursday last week. I took an extended holiday, the first holiday I've had from the podcast since the very beginning of February. You know, I prided myself on bringing out 2 episodes per week, but my mastermind group members were strongly encouraging me to take a break, to take a holiday. I refused, but finally I decided to take a break. And I had an epic weekend. I don't know about you guys, UK listeners, what you did on the bank holiday weekend. For the rest of you, the rest of the world, I hope you had an amazing weekend. I crammed so much in. I did 2 double workouts, 2 podcast interviews, 2 weddings, a music festival, a picnic on a riverboat. It was action-packed. Needless to say, I'm a little sleepy today, but ready to rock. I've been to the gym again this morning. I'm fired up and ready to go. So today's topic, I'm going to be talking about where do you want to go? And this really, to break it down, is going to be a session around goal setting, long-term goal setting and short-term goal setting. And I'm going to give you some context to why that's an important topic in a moment. But before we do that, let me just cover what we've been listening to, what you've missed out on over the last couple of weeks, if you haven't tuned in over the last couple of weeks. So last Monday, I talked to you about how to beat the Monday blues. That's where I spent some time in the city square here in Bristol, where I live in the southwest of the UK, and just watched the body language of people at 8:30 a.m. on a Monday morning and contrasted it with 5:30 p.m. on a Friday afternoon, and to see how different people were responding to the different points of the week. And, you know, in that story, I shared how you can overcome the Monday blues. Now, I was talking conceptually in the show. There are some really important lessons in there about how you can really focus on the things that make you come alive and how to create real change in your life. I shared some really powerful advice in this. So if you haven't checked it out, episode 58, last Monday, do go and check it out. And then prior to that, I interviewed Marcus Leach about how to inspire yourself to take on more adventure in your life. It's a seriously inspirational episode. This guy's a global adventurer doing crazy things like climbing mountains and cycling all these crazy races. And it inspired me so much that I've now just this weekend agreed to a 10-day cycle ride next summer, where I'm going to be cycling from Genoa in Italy to Mount Vesuvius over 10 days to the live mountains, the live volcano, sorry. So upping the ante in terms of my own adventure. The longest cycle ride I've done prior to that was 5 days, doubling it to 10 days through the Alps again. Can't wait. And I'm sure I will book in some more adventures before the end of the year. But let's bring us right back to this show. So why am I talking about goal setting and where you want to go? Now, over the last couple of weeks, I haven't really spoken about this on the podcast. It's been more of a localized initiative, but I've been putting together a local business mastermind in my city, the city of Bristol. You know, for you guys who are listening to the show, if you're new or regular, I interview guests, inspiring entrepreneurs, thought leaders, soon-to-be athletes and public figures and celebrities all around the world about what it takes to be unstoppable in business and life. And I've built this great network of individuals all over the world. I have lots of friends across the world anyway. But what I figured was, I really don't know any of the great people in my own city. So I've been piecing together this Bristol business mastermind to try and bring together some like-minded individuals in my own city. And over the course of this process, I've been basically meeting entrepreneurs one-to-one to find out about the business, tell them about the mastermind, to make sure there's a good fit. Obviously, it's a paid group, so I really need to kind of scope out if they'd be the right person for the group and to ensure that I can add value to what their business is doing. So I had 32 different applications. I've spoken and met with lots of different entrepreneurs. And what was really interesting to find was that there seems to be a common thread amongst many of those applicants. And the distinct thing that stood out was a lack of clarity around what they ultimately want long-term for their business, but more importantly in that, ultimately what they want long-term for their life as a whole. So there was this real kind of lack of clarity. And in addition, over the last couple of weeks, as I've been interviewing new guests for the show, there's been some really standout conversations when it comes to kind of this concept of lifestyle design. Last week, I interviewed a guy called James Lavers. It's going to be one of the best episodes I put out on the show. I'm going to bring it forward. I'm probably going to release it this Thursday. I haven't decided yet. So if you're listening to this and you want to hear from James this Thursday, do come and vote with your feet and let me know. It is an incredible episode. But James has created a business where he has the opportunity to work just 2 days per week. You know, this is no crazy, get rich quick type business. This guy has a legitimate online-based business. He's created an amazing small tribe of individuals, and he speaks on the podcast how he's done that. And it really gave me food for thought. And I thought to myself, here I am working an incredible amount of hours. I don't talk a lot about how many hours I put in, but I work I put in a lot of time on my business, the podcast, the coaching, masterminds, to build my unstoppable brand, to build the empire. And here's James working 2 days a week. And I thought to myself, if I had the opportunity to just work 2 days per week, I would kind of feel lost. And I don't know if you're listening to this thinking, I'd be quite happy to work 2 days a week. But think about this. What would you do with your time? Honestly. And the challenge for me is I really would not know necessarily how to fill my time. There's things I do in my city, like working out. I can't work out all day, every day. I don't live on the coast. I love spending time at the beach, but it would take some travel for me to get there. I love reading, but I couldn't read solidly for 3 days. So it really made me think, what do I really want? So there was me noticing the lack of long-term clarity in some of these mastermind applicants. And then there was me suddenly in my own life realizing I don't have that short-term clarity. What would I do if I suddenly had that spare time? And that's a frightening thought, because I genuinely believe that in business and in entrepreneurship, when you set goals and projects, or you set time aside for a particular task, the workload will expand to the time that you allocate to it. So there's no wonder why I'm spending all these hours trying to build the brand when I don't have clarity around how else I would spend my time. And that's relatively shocking to me. So it's something I want to get clear on, and that's part of the reason why I'm putting today's show out, because it's really got some thoughts going in my head around how to get clear on your long-term vision and game plan. And I want to take that concept of vision and really chunk it down into something meaningful. Throughout time, all these personal development authors and speakers are talking about have a vision, get clear on your vision, but they never really chunk it down to what that means. I'm going to do that for you today. But then getting clear on the day-to-day, the lifestyle design, how would you spend your time? So to give you even further context on this, in the beginning of July, I went through this kind of quarter three planning, 90-day planning process. For me, it was crunch time. I got to a point where I felt frustrated. I felt my passion was lacking. I didn't feel happy in myself. I felt fed up. And part of the reason was I didn't have that long-term clarity. So I spent some time looking at actually, what do I want to experience in my lifetime? Who do I want to become? How do I want to live each day? How do I want to feel? How do I want to show up? And I really centered on how do I want to experience life from an emotional standpoint? Do I want to feel excited, happy, joyful, playful, at peace, tranquility, vibrant, energetic, confident, powerful? How did I want to experience every single day? And then took the benchmark of where I am right now and what I need to do to get there. But ultimately it became crunch time, because to tell you the truth of the matter, since working in corporate and during my time in corporate and subsequent to corporate, I amounted personal unsecured debt. This is the first time I've ever said this publicly, of £20,000, just short of £20,000, which really, in the scheme of things, is not a huge amount of money, but it's it's enough to be annoying. It's enough to be annoying. And when you have debt, unsecured debt hanging over you, it is a block and a barrier to freedom. And since starting my business in 2012, I've had some real major roller coaster rides, some major ups and some major downs. And unfortunately, at the early part, more downs than ups. So I've carried a lot of that debt forward with me, and it's something that's still here today. And saying this out loud has been a major challenge for me to even do, because confronting debt, you have this perception, and I'm going to go on a rant on this in a minute. I do apologize for the side rant, but it's going to come up. I'm going to bring it up. But I'm going to be doing a podcast on money shame, because there's people out there, and I've seen that there's a guy I saw recently. I'm not going to name him, but he put a post up, with a screenshot of his electronic PayPal or something, whatever payment system he was using, with this gigantic bank balance, this multiple six-figure bank balance. And his whole piece was around, don't listen to people who don't have money, only listen to people who have made it successfully. They got finances and they walk the talk, all this stuff, right? And for someone who's there then sat on their own personal debt of £20,000, I'm thinking, well, where does that leave me? I honestly believe that I have exceptional value to add to anyone that I work with, whether it's an entrepreneur or leader, in the coaching, the work that I do, the strategy work, the mentorship, the advice, and the strategies. I can really help with people's businesses. I can really make a big difference. But there was me in this back of my mind going, what if he's right? What if I need to have this gigantic bank balance for people to take me seriously? And this whole thing started spiraling in my head. But then I Googled this guy's name. And the first page of Google, the results, were just lists of rip-off reports, scam reports, and all of these complaints about this guy who is basically ripping people off and playing on people's insecurities and fears, and using real scarcity-based mindset marketing and really playing on fear, people's fears, and this BS style of business building, selling hope and no real results. And so there was me thinking, on one hand, how can I stand up and call myself this expert when I'm carrying this personal debt? You guys didn't know about it until now, so there we go. And it really made me think, like, why does that matter? Do I need to think about that? But then I saw this guy, and I saw all these things about these complaints, and I was like, well, screw you, man. You can't stand there and say only listen to wealthy people, because yes, there is a lot to learn from wealthy people, because they've created an empire from doing what they love most of the time by themselves. Obviously, people do inherit businesses, but do it legitimately if you're going to do it. And don't try and rain on other people's parade using this bullshit nonsense. Sorry to swear. I'm going to get carried away. I did say I was going to rant. But I just know there's people out there, and I've worked with a lot of people who have money mindset issues, and this is just proliferated by idiots like this guy who says you need to be rich in order to give advice. Do you know what? I've had some of the best advice of my life where I have not paid a penny. I remember conversations in my corporate life, just sat on the edge of a table, talking with my mentors and my leaders, just really absorbing golden nuggets that have transformed my career. I also remember being in Thailand and visiting and meeting some of the Buddhist monks and having some just phenomenal learnings from these monks who don't have a penny. It doesn't matter. Money to them does not matter, yet they're wise beyond what I could ever describe. So don't give me that nonsense about needing to have money. And I know I've gone on a side tangent, but I mentioned the debt and the mindset around that, and I'm going to do a whole piece on money shame. And I just want to liberate you, if you're listening to this, thinking about your own personal financial circumstances being a limiting factor on your growth. It's BS. Just do not allow it to be it. You are the creator of your world. And there's so many businesses out there that are built on debt. I was spent 8 years in banking. I've seen behind the scenes on the financial side of so many businesses, and so many of them are built upon debt. Yet it doesn't stop them going out there, creating phenomenal impact and profits in their business. So if you have debt, for me personally, I want to eliminate it so I have total freedom. But if you do have debt, make sure you're producing a return on it. You know, those businesses that I used to work with from a banking perspective, the whole reason we lent them money is because we believed that it could create better, more profitable results through that extra injection of capital. So debt is a good thing if you allow it to be. But for me personally, I want to eliminate it so I can have that total freedom. You know, I'm a solo entrepreneur. I don't want to be worried about my debt payments every single month. So I'm going to do a whole thing on podcast on money shame. That's my money rant over. So, the whole principle of listen to the rich and forget the monks, screw that. I've got a different perspective on that. So ultimately, July 2016, Q3 planning, this frustration around money was one aspect, but then it was more so around my day-to-day, how I show up. And I really want to think about, how do I want to experience life? How do I want to spend my time, not only in business, but in my life? I've read the 4-hour work week. It appeals to me. And this working 2 days a week business model that James Lavers has secured, it really made me think, how would I spend my time if I had the time freedom? It's important to know that. Then I started to think about, what do I want to do? What do I want to have? Who do I want to be? What do I want to focus on creating in my lifetime? What do I want to focus on creating now? So I went through this entire review process. It was incredibly transformational. I am gonna try turn it into a workshop, because I know it's going to create prolific results for people who go through it. Just the very act of going through that has produced phenomenal results in the last month since undertaking that exercise. But there were some open loops that I didn't leave closed. And it was not until last week, when I had these conversations with these mastermind applicants and the conversations with these podcast guests, who really got me thinking about this whole concept of, where are you going? Where are you going in life? And I'm going to use an analogy. I'm going to use the analogy of catching a flight. Or going on holiday. Let's use that. So for me personally, when I book a trip, there are various different factors that I analyze or important to me before booking a trip. I know the types of activities, I know the types of holidays I want. If I've been working for a long period of time, I know I want to have some percentage or proportion of my time spent relaxing, enjoying, unwinding. But then it's always innately within me, I like that sense of adventure, that sense of exploration, that sense of culture. And weather. The weather is usually an important choice for me. I do like the heat and the sun. So when I'm choosing a destination, there are all these different factors, but I know what's important to me based upon my past experience and the things also that I want to explore. I actively look for things to bring in. So those are some of the factors I kind of consider when booking a destination. And the same really applies when we set our goals. We really need to focus on what's important to us. What do we enjoy? What do we like doing? And there's always two schools of thoughts when it comes to business. I know there's people out there who are very passionately militant on just go for profit, and there's other people who are follow your passion. And I think you need a combination of the two. Well, you do need a combination of the two. Following your passion without profit is not going to get you anywhere. And to be honest, following a path of profit without any passion is just going to leave you unfulfilled. So you need to find that hybrid place in the middle. So step one is really to figure out where you're going. It's really to understand why you want to get there. Why do you want to go there? So when I'm booking a holiday, all those factors are important. But ultimately, when I book the flight to that destination, I have a clear destination of where I'm going to go. And we're going to use this analogy throughout the rest of this episode. So where do you want to go? I'm talking about your life now, or your business. Where do you want to take your life? How and what factors are important to you? If you think about all the things you're doing right now, what lights you up? What brings you joy? What brings you happiness? And those are my words: joy, happiness, and vibrancy, all these things that are important to me. But what's most important to you? What emotions do you want to create on a day-to-day basis? And what do you want to create in the long term? You need to know where you're heading. So the open loop for me after doing this Q3 process was I got really clear on how I want to experience my life. I also got clear on, conceptually what I want to build in my business over the next 12 months, 3 years, 5 years and beyond. But the challenge is I didn't really set any clear destinations. I had some clear headings, but it's a bit like deciding to go on holiday but not booking the flight. I got clear on where I want to go, but there were certain things missing. So think about it. When you book a flight, what happens? First of all, you decide where you want to go and why you want to go there. You make a clear, informed choice. But then, when you book your tickets, you make a confirmation that that is where you're going to go. Number one, you set it in stone by booking it. And there are a couple of things that happen as a result of that. You're going to get your boarding time. You're going to know when you're going to leave. And you also know your arrival time, the date that you're going to arrive and when you're going to get there and which airport you're going to land in. So all these logistics start to fall into place. So there I was, having done this Q3 process, basically identifying using conceptual, I wanted to go New York, Barbados, Costa Rica. This is just conceptually. In business, it was the type of events I want to run. It's the type of courses I want to provide, the type of coaching I want to get involved with, the types of things that I want to create over the next 12 months. And even in my personal life, when I was setting my personal goals, all the things that I want to experience over the next 12 months and beyond. So it was like getting clear on my holiday destinations, but I didn't book the flights. Or if I did, I didn't set it in stone. It was like an open ticket. There was no boarding time. There was no arrival time. I left these open loops. And surprise, surprise, a month later, okay, some things have moved forward, but they haven't moved forward at the rate I'd like them to move forward to it. And it still leaves me then feeling that sense of frustration, lack of passion, feeling fed up. So I did this important exercise, which was life-changing, but it's only moved me forward a certain distance because I haven't completed these loops. So number one is to figure out where you want to go. What are the holiday destinations of your life? What do you want to, where are you going in business? Where are you going in life? What's most important to you? And why do you want to go there? But then number three, if number one is where are you going and number two is why do you want to go there? Number three is when are you leaving? When are you going to start the project? So for me, historically, I use a 90-day planning process, which is what this Q3 process was all about, where I'd set clear milestones for the project. But ultimately, the first thing you need to decide is when you're going to begin. And I did start some new projects right off the back of that Q3 planning, but I was so intent, caught up in the energy of creation, I just went straight into it. And, which is great. I've created results. I've built this Bristol mastermind, and it's all working out well. And there's some things to finish up, but the project has happened incredibly well. But I didn't have a clear start date, and I didn't have a clear finish date. So here I am, kind of flying mid-air, building the plane as I fly. So number one, where are you going? Number two, why you want to get there? Number three, you need to decide when you're leaving, when you're going to start. Think about all the projects that you could work on and the destinations you're heading for, and choose when you're going to begin. And then number four is when are you going to arrive? When will the project finish? When is the plane going to land? If you don't have a clear deadline, you're in no man's land the entire time. This project, yes, I've been focused upon it. I haven't been distracted. But, today's the 30th of August. The project's coming to a close now, and I've just been moving the deadline as I go. I didn't have a clear deadline from the outset. Really clear deadlines are so important. Otherwise, you're just leaving life to chance. Number 5, you know where you're going, you know why you want to get there. You know when you're going to begin, when you're going to be done by. Number 5 is, do you have a flight map? What actions do you need to take? What are the waypoints? What are the milestones? How frequently we need to check the map? With this particular project, I did create a clear roadmap. I did know what actions I needed to take, but I didn't set clear milestones, and I didn't set clear checkpoints in terms of when I was going to review my progress, because I didn't have a start point and didn't have a finish point. So these open loops need closing to create effective goals. So let's recap. This process all began with this Q3 planning about getting clear on how I want to experience life. And that's the number one thing. The number one thing is, how do you want to experience life in business? How do you want to experience life in your personal life? This is about how you show up, how you experience life. Because if you're working on things that don't light you up, they don't make you happy, they don't fill you with passion, they don't fill you with joy, then something needs to change. In order to establish the destination, as I talked about using the holiday reference, the reason I'm able to choose my holidays is because I know what I like. I know what I want to experience when I go on holiday. But life is for creating, and we have to create things based upon the things that fire us up. And you can be surrounded by people who say, it's not a perfect world, it doesn't work like that. I say, screw you, it does work like that. You are the creator of your own life. And if you know what you like, then damn well go after it and make it happen. So choose the destination based upon what you want in life. And number 2, figure out why you want to go there. Once you've identified the destination, you've got to figure out all the reasons why you want to go there. So you remember every single day why you're on that plane, why you're taking those actions, why you're doing what you're doing. Because without a reason for doing something, it can very quickly dissipate, just disappear. It leads to procrastination, perfectionism, avoidance, and all of a sudden you find you're no longer on the plane. And think about this, using the flight analogy, you can't get off the plane. And here's another piece to the flight analogy. Once you book the flight, your plane is always going to be going towards New York. If you're going to New York, you go to New York. Unlikely that sometimes there are diversions, unforeseen circumstances, but in the majority of cases, you book a flight to New York, you go to New York. Now, here's another distinction. So, for a percentage of the time between takeoff and landing, the plane is not going to be on track all the time. So it's constantly course correcting. It's constantly making adjustments to ensure that eventually it lands in the correct location. So when you've got a clear long-term plan, you would rarely expect your long-term destination to change on a day-to-day basis. And I've worked with people over the last couple of months who, when I check in with them on a weekly basis, their long-term destination seems to change as quick as they change their clothes on a day-to-day basis. So it's really important that you get clear on your destination, because over the long term, it's gonna be relatively static. The long-term vision doesn't move on a day-to-day basis, but the short-term movements, the short-term goals, will change. That flight path towards New York, you're going to make zigzags. You're going to take different paths along the way, but you're ultimately going to land in New York. So number one, get clear on where you're going. Number two, know why you're going to get there. Number three, when you're setting any goals or projects, you got to choose when you're going to start. When are you going to leave? When's the plane taking off? Number four, when you're going to land. You need a clear end date. Now, again, using the same analogy, sometimes planes are delayed, sometimes they arrive early. Most of the time, they arrive on time. The key for this is you need to set a clear end date for your projects. And then number five, critically, once you've got the other four in place, do you have a flight map? Have you plotted the course from A to B? In every business venture, in most cases, unless you're an inventor or an innovator, you will have a clear roadmap. Even as an innovator, you have a clear roadmap. You just need to figure out where you're going to start, where you're going to finish, and everything that needs to happen in between. So make sure you've got a flight map for every single project or goal. What are the waypoints? What are the milestones? Where are the check-ins? How frequently do you need to review your plans? These 5 steps are incredibly important in setting any goals or projects. And for me, that was the missing piece. I allowed my creative spirit, my action orientation to go from that Q3 planning, where I had a really intense emotional experience in terms of what I wanted to create, who I was going to become, how I wanted to live each day. And I just jumped straight into creation. And there's a lot of good things that come from that, but you can save a lot of time and effort and energy by creating a clear plan. So for me, the open loop is something I'm very much focusing on fixing for the month of September. I'm going to chunk down my plan into a monthly plan. I'm going to create a clear flight map, if you will, for the month of September for all the projects. And I'm going to create a destination map for the remainder of this year. So I encourage you, if you're listening to this podcast today, think about what you're working on right now. Are you in reaction or creation mode without a plan? Can you, if you and I were to jump on a phone call on the back of this podcast, would you be able to clearly articulate exactly what you're working towards, the exact destination? Tell me when you started, tell me when you're going to finish, and tell me all the steps you're going to take on the way. If the answer is no, you and I both have some work to do. But that's something I would like for you to take away from today's show. And if you would like some help with that, I'm putting together a guide for you, a goal-setting guide, your flight map guide on the back of this episode. So go to danjgregory.com/flight map. I'll include all the steps from today's episode in that PDF, downloadable PDF. Just need to enter your name and email address, and I'll ping that straight to you. And on the back of that flight map document, I will give you the opportunity to connect with me one-to-one and have a call about your goals and plans to see if I can help you in any way to build your business. So I hope this has been a useful episode. Sorry about the little side rant on money in the middle. I am going to do a whole session on that. I think that's an important topic. If that's resonated with you, do let me know as well. So the final thing for me to say to you is please subscribe to the podcast. You can do that on your chosen podcast platform. If you come over to danjgregory.com, you'll see a pop-up or a box on the side where you can subscribe to my mailing list so you don't miss a trick. I'm going to be bringing out lots of new content. That Q3 plan I told you about, there's loads of stuff I've written in there about social media content, webinars, videos. I'm going to hire a videographer soon, following Gary Vaynerchuk's steps and trying to get myself all over the social media. So please do come and subscribe to check in on what's coming up. And I would love it if you would leave a positive review for the podcast and leave a 5-star rating on your chosen podcast platform. I think most of my listeners are using iTunes. I would really I'd have immense respect if you could leave me a 5-star review. Any feedback that you have on the show, I'm constantly looking to innovate the show, so please do get in touch with any suggestions and feedback. Your thoughts are very much welcome, and this is for you. This podcast is not for me, this is for you. So what I can do to improve for you as a listener of the show, I will do my utmost to bring the very best content to you. So hopefully this episode has been interesting, informative, and engaging and entertaining in some way. I hope this has given you something to think about. Like I said, if you and I had to jump on a call, would you be able to answer those 5 points? Check in with your flight map, danjgregory.com/flight map. Grab a copy of that today. Review your goals against that map, and let's connect soon. Until next time, coming up this Thursday, it's highly likely to be James Lavers. I won't say any more than that, but it was one of the most inspirational interviews I've done for a very long time. Very entertaining, and I can't wait to share that with you. But until next time, go out there, unleash your greatness, build your empire, make your impact, and live your ultimate life. You are unstoppable.